Hi there, this is Shawn Hanks with Premier Speakers, and we thank you for joining us today. We have a special guest with us today, Bill Capodagli, author of The Disney Way and Innovate the Pixar Way, also a well-known speaker and author. Bill, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, my pleasure to be here, Shawn.
Well, I know life is busy for you, so we're just going to jump right in here. I mentioned you are the author of The Disney Way first, and followed that with Innovate the Pixar Way. What led you from being a Disney expert and researching the life of Walt Disney and the company? What led you to make that jump to the company of Pixar?
Well, Shawn, Pixar came onto our radar screen in 1995 when we were researching our first book, The Disney Way. And we watched this rather boutique, obscure Northern California studio emerge from what initially seemed to be just a technical subcontractor to Disney to virtually replacing Disney's animation department in the early 2000s, and then ultimately being purchased by the Disney organization in 2006 for a cool $7.4 billion.
Wow.
And their studios, it's more like a playground than a professional studio. I mean, you may see people playing pinball or swimming in an Olympic-sized swimming pool or riding around on kids' scooters. So we wanted to find out what makes this wacky place so successful. 12 blockbuster hits in a row, grossing over $7 billion and costing about $1.5 billion to make. And 11 of those 12 have received 39 Academy Award nominations and have won 9 times.
Those are returns that any corporation would look for, aren't they?
They sure would.
Now, Pixar and Disney, many people would label them as entertainment companies. You focus heavily and have done so very well on creativity, storytelling, inspiration, but I can hear some CEOs or executive directors of associations asking, do those have real-world applications for me? What are some bottom-line results I can expect from that? How do you answer that question?
Well, I think one of the things that we try to get companies to focus on is the long term and to look at creating a story about the long term, what do they want to look like, 10, 12 years down the road. Short-term mentality, living for today at the expense of tomorrow is a virus that has infected our economy. I mean, consider this. A decade ago, the average tenure of a CEO of the Fortune 500 was 12 years.
Wow.
I mean, today it is less than 5 years. I mean, what is GM had 3 CEOs in the last 30 months, and Wall Street expects them to have a new strategy in place in the first 100 days on the job. So instead of investing in the future, they're manipulating the books, they're eliminating training and jobs, they're ignoring new markets and research and development, and they're compromising quality all for the next quarterly earnings report.
Very timely in a corporate setting as well as the entertainment world.
Yeah, and when it comes to quality, there's no right way to do the wrong thing. And Walt and the folks at Pixar really understood this. That when they make something, they make it the best that they can, because these films, will last for generations to come.
Terrific. Well, and I mentioned that on the onset here that you are a speaker and consultant. You do quite a bit of consulting. What are one or two examples that you can give us of your consulting taking root and producing some success in the corporate or association nonprofit world?
Sure. One of the most interesting clients I've ever dealt with resulted from a conference call I received from a small town school board president. And on this conference call was the superintendent of schools, the head of the local hospital, the city manager, and a vice president from the local junior college. And they told me that they had read The Disney Way and wondered how I could possibly help them transform their school system. You see, the town was having trouble attracting doctors and college professors and other professionals to their community because of the poor school system. And the superintendent was new, and he had some fantastic ideas how to change the culture, but wanted some help in implementing this. And I proposed that the entire community pursue a Disney Way transformation and be known as a customer service, a dream, believe, dare, do community. After the phone call, I told my partner, it's hard enough to get one organization to agree on a course of action, yet alone 4.
Sure.
And I said,
Real
I
problem.
said the probability that this happening was probably slim and none. But, but boy, was I wrong. We kicked off this effort with a 90-minute keynote that I made, If Walt Ran Your Organization, followed by 3 intensive days of training and planning the teams for their implementation effort. And to give you some idea on how committed this community is to making change, and they're well on their way of changing their community. On the night of my keynote, 700 people attended my keynote.
Wow.
Now I've spoken to much larger audiences, but the population of this community is a little less than 6,000 people.
10% attendance. That's terrific.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, I've pressed you for this offline a few different times, Bill, but being an expert on Walt Disney, and I'll label you as an expert on Walt Disney. What are 1 or 2 things? So many people who are watching this grew up watching Walt Disney's creations and the creations of his company, and then moving on to Pixar. And now our children are watching those. What's one unique thing that you learned, or one unique insight that you learned about Walt Disney and his style and management skills as you did all your research over the years?
Well, the biggest thing that I learned was that when Walt was once asked what the secret to his success was, he said he didn't know how much of a secret it was, but before he would start any new project, he would think of 4 things. He would dream of ways of doing business that have never been done before. He would test those dreams against his beliefs and the values of his organization. He would dare to take the risk to make those dreams come true. And lastly, put plans together so those dreams do become a reality. So dream, believe, dare, do are the 4 principles that have led to the success of the Disney organization for now over almost 90 years. And with Pixar, we found that they're alive and well at Pixar, but Pixar looks at the world kind of through the eyes of a child. And so we tweaked these 4 principles a little bit for our Pixar book: to dream like a child, to believe in your playmates, to dare to jump in the water and make waves, and do unleash your childlike potential.
Terrific. Well, Bill, people who see your name in print would probably say, "No, Bill Capodagli. How did you get Capodagli out of that spelling?" And I'd be remiss to end our conversation here without asking you the background on your name and the pronunciation. So, give us the background.
Well, as you know, Shawn, it looks like Capodagli, Capodagli.
Sure.
And in Italian, it's pronounced Capodagli, which is a little more phonetic.
Sure.
But when my grandparents came over from Italy and they couldn't speak English, and my father started school, the teacher pronounced his name Capodagli. And he came back home and thought that that was the English pronunciation of his name. And my grandparents, not knowing any differently, started pronouncing their name Capodagli. Well, after I graduated college and started a new life in the business world, the firm I was with, we all new recruits shared a secretary, and she was with the company for 100 years, very motherly from us. And I was away from my desk one day, and the phone rang, and the person on the other end of the phone said, "Could I speak to Mr. Capodagli, please?" And Jerry, being a very efficient secretary, she says, "Oh, you mean Mr. Capodagli?" And the voice on the other end of the phone said, "No, I mean Mr. Capodagli, and I should know because I'm his mother." And when I got back, Jerry just shook her finger at me, and she said, "If it's good enough for your mother and father, it's good enough for you." So it's Capodagli.
We don't argue with moms, so Capodagli it is.
That's correct.
Well, Bill, as I mentioned at the start, you were busy, and we appreciate you taking a few minutes. For all of our viewers, we encourage you to click on the link below this video for more information about Bill, to watch some other video assets on Bill, and then also to learn how you can schedule Bill to speak at your next corporate or association function. Bill, thank you so much for the opportunity to chat with you, and just for your wisdom and insight.
Thanks, Shawn.
Terrific. Have a good afternoon.
You too.